Good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ. So first off, it is very rainy where I am. So if you hear like little pitter patters or noise in the background, white noise, it's because it is raining where I am. So the word that I am bringing to you guys today is coming from a long 3-part dream that I had last night. And I woke up scared, like God is trying to tell me the world is about to end and all types of other things. But I do want to say this. Me and my grandma were talking about this not too long ago. And she was telling me how, like, back in the day, there was a prophetess that came to her and told her, always trust your first mind. When you are, especially if you're a person who has strong discernment and you know God's voice from the devil's voice from your own voice, always go with your first mind when you know that that is God speaking to you, okay? So, this is, like I said, it's a 3-part dream. It's pretty long. But I'm going to give you guys the first part of the dream. I'm going to tell you the interpretation after I tell you what this part of the dream was. So, in this part of the dream, I was with other people. And we were in like a jacuzzi or like a small swimming pool. I'm not sure what it was. I went over to the edge of it. And I could see in the lining, like around the edges of it, I saw a wasp come out. And I thought, oh my God, what the heck? There's a wasp. And then I knew that there were other ones in there because more started to come out. And I believe I could hear them too. And there was like a blanket somewhere like over there. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I have to go hide under this blanket because all these bees are about to start, these wasps are about to come out. And then that was that part of the dream. The wasps were coming out. So biblically, in your dreams, wasps from beneath, I'm not even going to just give you the interpretation of what the wasp is. I'm going to tell you, because it was coming from up underneath, this means something specific. Excuse me. Wasps from beneath symbolize spiritual warnings regarding hidden, here's that word again, y'all, hidden, rising, or sudden attacks from enemies and underlying issues. They represent divine judgment to drive out negative influences or forces, and for you to seek spiritual protection from God and repentance. Biblically, hornets are used to drive out enemies, and seeing them emerge from underneath may indicate that a situation, though painful, is ultimately intended to remove obstacles and toxic influences from your life. Wasps represent painful, sudden stings or disruptions in your life. Coming from below suggests that they are arising from your past or unexpected hidden sources. So this tells us that there is something coming up from underneath. Again, like I was speaking about in my previous videos, the hidden things are about to be revealed. God is in the process of revealing every hidden thing, and masks are coming off. Masks are coming off of these people who are pretending to be in your corner and who are secretly preying on your downfall and doing witchcraft against you and spell work. Masks are coming off. And so in the Bible, there are multiple places where God uses wasps and hornets to drive out the enemy. The first one is Exodus. So Exodus 23:28 in the King James Version says, this is God speaking. And it says, and I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before thee. That is what God used then. And also in Joshua 24:12, God speaking again, and he says, and I sent the hornet before you, which drave them out from before you, even the 2 kings of the Amorites, but not with the sword, nor with thy bow. God uses those hornets to drive out the enemy multiple times. And in this dream, one came up first, and that's when I spotted it. And then more started to come up. And I'm like, what in the heck is this? And so I needed to find a covering, but God is our covering. We don't need to be seeking shelter from ourselves, from other people, relying on them. We need to be going to God and seeking protection from him and covering from him. And so that was the end of that part of the dream. So in this second part of the dream, this part is regarding an elevator and the voice of God versus Satan. So in front of me, I don't know what type of building I was in or where I was, but in front of me there was 2 elevators. There was an elevator on the left and there was an elevator on the right. I immediately began to walk to the elevator on the left, And then I heard a voice. This is really crazy because I've never heard God speak in my dreams before, or the devil. Like, I have never heard a voice speaking to me in my dreams before. Like, excuse me, y'all. Never. I don't know if y'all have or not, but I have never heard a voice speaking to me in my dreams. The dream to me is the subconscious, so it's like, it's weird that a spirit, whether it be God or whether it be Satan, is speaking to you in a dream, right? So I began to walk over to the left elevator, and then I heard a voice. I heard a voice say, "Don't get on this elevator, get on the other one." And I immediately said, "No, I'm going to get in this elevator." So I got in the elevator, and I was going only up a few floors, but then it began to rise more. It rose higher, more floors than I thought. And I thought to myself, why is it going so long? I just clicked a few floors up. And then it opened, and I got out. And there was a young man standing there, and he said, and I thought to myself, why was the elevator not doing what I thought it was going to do? It did more than what I thought it was going to do. And there was a young man standing there, and he said to me, the same thing happened to me when I used that elevator. And to my left, I could see an elevator, the elevator that the voice was telling me to get on. It was flat. It was like it had fallen out of the socket. Like, it was literally like an elevator on the floor. Like, it fell straight out of its socket and was just on the floor. And then that was the end of that part of the dream. So there's multiple interpretations regarding this dream, regarding the voice, regarding the elevator that I was on, going further up than I wanted it to, or not wanted it to, but going further up than I had intended. And then there is also an interpretation for that elevator next to me that was on the ground. So first off, I'm going to give you the interpretation of the two voices, because I was unsure at first whether it was God speaking to me or whether it was the devil speaking to me in my dream. So when God speaks to you in a dream, it's a method of divine communication used to guide, warn, or reveal his will. Versus when the devil gives you direction in a dream, it's a spiritual attack intended to cause confusion, fear, or disobedience from God. Now, I had already had it in my mind straight set away that I was going to this elevator. There wasn't a voice that told me to go to the elevator at first. For some reason, once I saw the two elevators, I immediately was going to the left one. Nothing had talked to me yet. And then that voice came and said, go to the other elevator. But I immediately bypassed the voice. I didn't sit and think or contemplate or anything. I immediately went into that elevator and it shot up, okay? So choosing between two elevators represents a significant decision in your life regarding your spiritual direction, career, or personal growth. Elevators represent rapid movement, transition, or changes in position. When an elevator goes upward, it means promotion or growth. When an elevator is moving downward, it means you need to humble yourself. It's trying to teach you about humility and the trials that are about to happen in your life. So like I said, this elevator was moving upward more than I had even reckoned. I'm thinking it's going to go up a few floors, but it went way up. And then when I stepped out of the elevator, there was a young man there, and he told me hey, this is happening to me too. And that's what tells me this message is for multiple people. This message is not just for me. So the way that I interpret the part of the dream of the direction, this is how I know it was Satan's voice. I know now that it was Satan's voice because when I stepped out of the elevator that I was in, I saw that elevator laying on the ground, the one that I would have got in had I listened to the voice. And that elevator was flat on its face. That means it would have fell while I was in it had I been disobedient. And, not necessarily disobedient, because my intuition had already told me to go to the left. So I guess it would be disobedience. So had I listened to the voice, though, I would have gotten in the right elevator and it would have fell with me in it. So when an elevator goes upward, like I said, that means that there is something that God is doing to you that it has to do with promotion or growth. I thought that the elevator was only going to go up a few floors, but instead it went up way more floors than I had intended. And this tells us about God's provision. The funny thing is, God always provides for me. But just this past week, I came into some things 3 times. God provided for me 3 different times, unexpectedly, way more than I even anticipated. And that's the thing about God. When he has something for you, we always expect just a little bit, or just what we're asking for, or just the amount. And that's how it was in the elevator. I had pressed to go maybe 2 floors up, and that's what I was expecting. I was going, okay, well, I'm going to go 2 floors up. But God had other plans. And God sent me up way more floors than I had even intended. And that's what he will do in your life. He will definitely give you way more than what you are asking for. The same thing that happened in King Solomon's story. It's funny because I was just listening to this not too long ago on my Bible reader. And same thing happened with Solomon. He only asked God for wisdom. That's all he asked for. He didn't ask God for riches. He didn't ask God for power. He asked God for wisdom. And guess what happened? God elevated him way more than he ever could have been. King Solomon was one of the richest kings ever. He was rich in every possible way that you could imagine. But he only asked for something very small. And that's how God moves in our lives, right? So let me get to this elevator that was out of the socket, right? This fallen elevator. This represents a sudden loss of control, a major setback, or a spiritual crisis. Biblically, it represents a severe interruption in your life trajectory and is a warning of an imminent, rapid, or destructive downfall, potentially rooted in pride or a departure from divine guidance. Meaning, had I got in that elevator, there could have been something destructive happening to me. And this is a word for everybody, because that guy, when I came out of the elevator, he said the same thing happened to me. So this is going on with multiple people. You have a choice to make. God is giving you a choice. You can either choose the left elevator or the right elevator. And if you don't discern the proper way, you could be following the wrong voice. Had I listened to that voice and got in that right elevator, I would have fell. Destruction would have come to my life, a downfall. And then it says it could be rooted in pride or a departure from divine guidance. If you are too prideful, if you are depending on your own abilities instead of God, if you are not seeking his voice, you're listening to the adversary or whoever else is in your ear. It may not even be Satan in your ear. He specifically, like how my dream was, it was him specifically in my ear. But in waking life, there are people around you who also try to get you to do things too. He could be using somebody, a vessel. Could be your mother, your friend, your brother, it could be a stranger. Could be telling you to do something that goes against what God's will is or what he already told you to do. And it doesn't matter if it's your mom or your sister, because a lot of the times we think that because it's somebody close to us, that they mean well for us and that we have to listen to them. But that is not always the case. Now, I'm not telling you to go be disobedient to your parents or anything like that, especially if you're a kid. But what I'm saying is follow God's voice, not people's. Follow God's voice, not the devil's. Use your discernment to strengthen that. That way you know whether it's God's voice or whether it's the devil's voice or whether it's your own subconscious. Because sometimes we tell ourselves things too. And then we blame it on God. And then things don't go our way. And we're like, well, you told me to do. No, you told you to do. So it's very important to know whether you're hearing God's voice or the devil's voice in your dream. Okay? Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. Had I been prideful and said, I'm not going to follow my intuition and go to this left elevator or go to the right one, I don't know how that dream would have went. Instead, I followed my intuition and went to that first elevator. And that's what I meant when I was talking at the beginning of the video, saying, follow your first mind. If you know that you're close to God and you know your discernment is strengthened and you know God's voice, follow that intuition first, because people will try to tell you that's not right. Sometimes we convince ourselves like, well, maybe God didn't say that. So let me do this instead. Don't do that to yourself. Trust yourself and trust God. Okay. And so part 3 of this dream, part 3 of the dream is pretty straightforward. I was in the car. I was in the passenger seat. There was someone else driving, and then there was a pregnant woman in the back, very highly pregnant. We were taking her to the hospital to deliver and to give birth. We know that giving birth in dreams doesn't necessarily mean an actual human baby, but you're giving birth to something new, whether it's a project, whether it's something, purpose or God's will for your life, whatever it is, you're about to give birth to something great that God has in store for you, right? So I got out of the vehicle, and I was allowing the other person to park the vehicle, right? Mind you, we're in a hurry. This lady's about to have a baby. So I got out and I stood on the sidewalk and I watched. And the person parking the vehicle parked so crooked and out in the street. It's almost like they were trying to take forever. Even though we were in a hurry, this person is causing delays, right? So I said, you know what? Bump this. Let me hurry up and run in this hospital. Tell them that we're here so we can get this process moving and get it started, right? I get inside this hospital. So the hospital seemed to be connected to a bunch of other shops, like a flower shop, and there was something else, right? And so I went in there, and then there was a woman in there. There was multiple other people in there. There's a woman, And I'm like, hey, we have this person coming. She has to give birth. And the woman straight up tells me, no, you guys can't come in through this way. You have to go around. The hospital entrance is on the other side. You guys have to go all the way around. That straight up just tells me, even from just knowing what I know in waking life, there are going to be people that cause delays to whatever God is birthing in you. No matter what. Whenever God has something for you, believe me, the devil has something for you too. He is going to try to stop that promise, stop God's will, stop that purpose, whatever way he can. He is going to cause delays. So in this dream, there were multiple delays. The person parking the car wrong. And then when I got in the hospital to try to, get the process started, there was someone else trying to cause an obstruction. That is a spiritual attack, an obstruction on your spiritual growth, trying to hinder your process, trying to stop you from doing whatever it is that God wants you to do. Listen, it does not matter how hard it gets. It doesn't matter how painful it gets. Push through. There will always be delays, but you have to come out on top. Understand who your maker is. He is not called the great I am for no reason. And when I say that, the great I am, it literally sends shivers down my body every time to just think how powerful and how mighty your God is. It does not matter that there are going to be people, there are going to be attacks, there are going to be enemies for the rest of your life. As long as you're close to God, this is going to be forever. People are going to come to attack you and try and stop you, or even just slow you down. It may not be a direct attempt to stop you right now, but it could be a way to slow you down. Because guess what? If you begin to get weary, the devil wins too. He doesn't necessarily come at you with the big thing to stop you, but he wants to slow you down. Because if he can slow you down, he can throw more things at you. So use this word, you guys, as you will. I hope this brought some peace and some resonance to somebody. Because this dream was, like I said, for multiple people. There were multiple people in that jacuzzi with me seeing these hornets come out. And then the young man that stood at the elevator, he also said the same thing is happening to him. So this is happening to multiple people. Be very careful about the voice you're listening to. Make sure it's God's voice. And do not allow people to stop you. And again, it could be somebody in your life. It could be a boyfriend, a sister, a mother, or somebody that you feel like you should listen to because they're close to you. It doesn't matter. Listen to God. They are not above God. I don't care how much you love them or how well you've known them or how much you trust them. Don't trust man over God. But that is it for this long video. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.